With Hashem's loving grace, welcome to Amunah Beams. Have a delightful Hasidic story. It's about Shalom Bayit, about marital peace. Back in the shtetl, in one of the townships in the European village, there was a miser, a very rich man that nobody liked, not even his wife, and he didn't like his wife either. And he treated her very mean, spoke to her mean. They argued all the time. So he went to the rabbi of the village. And he asked the rabbi of the village, he says, Rabbi, can't stand my wife. I want to get rid of her. The rabbi says, no problem. It's written in the Torah. You give her a writ of divorce, a get, and finished. And he says, I can't give her a get. The rabbi said, why not? He says, because I've got to pay her too much money. I promised on the ketubah too much money. When I still loved her, when we were first married, I promised 10,000 rubles. So I'm not going to give her 10,000 rubles. So Rebbe says, well, then you're going to have to get along with her. He says, I can't get along with her. I can't stand her. He says, Rebbe, don't you have any other advice for me? How can you get rid of her? So the Rebbe was very clever. And he says, you know something? In Tractate Shabbos, page 32b, it says that if a person pledges money for charity and doesn't keep the pledge, then his wife dies. So the miser says, Rebbe, yeah, it says that? He says, sure, I've got a good idea for you. He says, we don't have a mikveh in the area. The women have to go 5 miles down the road, and it would take 10,000 rubles to build a mikveh here. So why don't you pledge the 10,000 rubles? We know that you're not going to pay it because you don't even give 2 rubles to charity. So pledge the 10,000 rubles, and you're not going to pay it. And within anywhere between 1 and 6 months, it's bye-bye, your wife's not going to be here anymore. This is everything our sages told in the Gemara. It's all absolute truth. So the miser loved the idea. And so the next township meeting in the shul, and he says, I pledge 10,000 rubles for the new mikveh. And everybody applauded. They couldn't believe it. The miser is pledging 10,000 rubles. This is something equivalent to $500,000. They couldn't believe it. So he pledged. And then the miser went home. And the miser felt really bad. And he says, maybe I'm not a nice guy, but I'm not a murderer. He says, according to law, I'm not murdering her. It's not. The Rebbe said it's okay. It's okay to make a pledge and not to keep it. But this is what happens. But he started to feel sorry for her. He says, maybe she's got minimum 1 month, maximum 6 months to live. So he started being nice to her. He started being nice to her, started speaking nice to her. And he figured there's a few months to live. Rather than making her eat this dry bread, he started buying her good food and let her buy some new clothes, let her enjoy her last couple of weeks, her last couple of months in life. Well, the wife so flourished, she flowered, she blossomed onto this kindness. And she treated him back with double kindness. And she was so nice to him, and she made herself up, and she looked beautiful. And so 3 weeks later, he went back to the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, I got something urgent. What's the matter? He says, my wife, I got to save my wife. I got to save my wife. She's going to die. And all of a sudden, I love her so much. She's really changed. I don't know how she changed so much. Rebbe, he knew this would happen. So he says, all you have to do, you want to save your wife? All you have to do is keep your promise. Keep your promise and your wife will live to 120. The guy didn't have a choice, and he kept his promise, and he built the mikveh, and he had a good marriage, he had a good wife, and she had a good husband. Everything happily ever after. What do we learn for this? So many people have marital problems, but maybe the marital problems begin with the way husband and wife talk to each other, with the way they're stingy with one another. Maybe they're large, they're magnanimous with the whole world, but with each other, no, because they think this, the Gemara says, pat b'salul, this is bread in your basket. So if the bread is in their basket already, they don't have to make an effort. But we understand that this is the other part of our soul, the other half of our soul. And the way I treat my spouse is the way I would want to be treated, the way I treat myself. And that is the key for a really good marriage. And it's very simple. 3 words in the Torah: love your neighbor as yourself. There's no closer neighbor to you in the world as the person you stood under the chuppah with. Take care, God bless, and have a wonderful marriage that you all dance at the weddings of your great-grandchildren. Amen.